You have to understand something fundamental. Your mind is not your ally by default. It's a battleground, a chaotic, noisy, contradictory place. And if you don't discipline it, if you don't take responsibility for ordering it, it will be colonized by impulses, ideologies, and resentment. That's not a philosophical statement, that's a psychological reality. People walk around thinking that just because a thought enters their head, that's not true. Thoughts are like guests. You don't have to entertain all of them. Some of them are tyrants, some are parasites, and some are downright malevolent. So how do you impose discipline? Well, first you stop lying, not just to others, but especially to yourself. Most people's thinking is so corrupted by self-deception that they can't distinguish between what they believe and what they want to believe. And if you don't start from a place of honesty, you'll build your entire cognitive architecture on sand. It will collapse under the first serious challenge. You'll find yourself rationalizing, projecting, avoiding, and blaming. That's not thinking. That's just the ego protecting itself. You need structure. That means you have to write. Write down your thoughts, articulate your problems, clarify your values. When something bothers you, don't just stew in it, map it out. Ask yourself, what exactly is the issue? What are the facts? What am I afraid of? What do I want? These questions aren't optional, they're foundational. Because until your problems are made explicit, they own you. But once you name them precisely, they shrink. They become manageable. And then there's the necessity of aiming at something. If your thinking isn't aimed, it deteriorates. You need a goal, something that orients your thoughts for, if not to move towards something better. This isn't just about productivity, it's about meaning. Without a destination, you'll drift, and drifting thoughts become bitter thoughts. Envy, nihilism, resentment. These don't arise in minds that are disciplined and aiming upward. They thrive in minds that are untethered. And you have to wrestle with the truth, not your truth, the truth. That's the terrifying part, because once you start disciplining your thinking, you realize that the truth often demands something of you. It's not a passive observation, it's a call to action. It will dismantle parts of you that are weak, arrogant, or unworthy. And that's painful, but it's also how transformation happens. You can't become who you could be if you refuse to confront what you are. Also, stop feeding your mind garbage. If you constantly consume low-quality information, ideological propaganda, superficial content, dopamine junk food, don't be surprised when your thoughts are incoherent, cynical, and shallow. Your mind is shaped by what you put into it, just like your body. Guard it, respect it. And finally, take yourself seriously, not in the sense of being pompous, but in the sense that your thoughts matter. Your ability to think clearly affects your life, your family, your community, everything. So act like it. Start with one honest sentence, then another, then clean up your internal dialogue. Be precise, be ruthless, be brave. That's how you build a disciplined mind. When it comes to disciplining your thinking, the first and most essential step is to confront the truth about yourself. This is not just a casual practice, it is a foundational necessity. Most people are so accustomed to lying to themselves, so entrenched in self-deception, that they can't even see the lies. They tell themselves they're fine when they're not, that they're doing well when they're struggling, and that they're competent when they're actually avoiding responsibility. This isn't a minor issue. It's a systemic problem. The mind is capable of incredible distortion when left unchecked. If you don't confront this, you build an entire life based on false premises, and it will inevitably collapse when reality strikes. The first thing you have to understand is that the truth is not always comfortable. We live in a world where comfort is highly prized, but comfort often leads to stagnation and decay. The truth, on the other hand, demands action, demands growth. It's not about accepting everything that happens to you or in the world around you, but about seeing things as they truly are, even when it's difficult. You can't change a problem unless you're willing to see it for what it is. People often shy away from the truth because it forces them to take responsibility for their lives, their choices, and their actions. It is far easier to believe that the world is against you, that you're a victim of circumstances, or that you can't control your destiny. But that's not the truth. The truth is that you have a responsibility, and if you don't take ownership of it, your thoughts will remain chaotic, and your life will reflect that chaos. Self-deception is insidious. It creeps in and distorts the way you view yourself, your capabilities in the world. You might tell yourself that you're fine when deep down you're not. You might convince yourself that you're doing everything you can when in fact you're avoiding difficult tasks or procrastinating. These small lies become larger as you keep telling them to yourself, and before you know it, your entire worldview becomes tainted by a distorted sense of self. If you don't acknowledge these distortions, you are only setting yourself up for failure. It's much easier to remain in a state of denial because the truth can often be overwhelming, but it's far more productive and empowering to face reality head-on. One of the key elements of disciplining your thinking is realizing that your thoughts are not always trustworthy. We tend to believe that just because a thought enters our mind, it is valid and true. But thoughts are not objective truths. They are subjective experiences that are shaped by our perceptions, emotions, and beliefs. Often, we cling to certain thoughts or beliefs because they provide comfort, even if they aren't accurate. This is where the importance of honesty comes in. You have to be ruthless with yourself when it comes to identifying the thoughts that are unproductive or false. You need to ask yourself, is this thought helpful? Is this thought true? If the answer is no, you have to be willing to let go of it. It's also important to note that self-honesty is not a one-time act. It's an ongoing process. You can't just have a moment of self-realization and expect everything to change overnight. Discipline in thinking requires consistent effort. It requires you to keep checking in with yourself, to keep asking whether the thoughts you're having are serving you or sabotaging you. And this process doesn't just stop at identifying negative or distorted thoughts. It involves actively replacing them with thoughts that are grounded in reality. This might involve asking yourself more constructive questions like, what am I afraid of? Or what can I do today to take a step forward? It's not enough to simply identify the falsehoods. You need to replace them with something that is aligned with the truth and moves you toward growth. Furthermore, self-honesty is also about recognizing your weaknesses and limitations. Many people resist this because it feels like admitting failure or inadequacy, but the truth is you can't work on improving yourself until you've acknowledged where you are weak. It's not about berating yourself for your shortcomings, but about accepting them so you can take concrete steps to overcome them. Strength doesn't come from pretending weaknesses don't exist. It comes from recognizing them and deciding to do something about it. If you're not honest with yourself about your flaws, your thinking will remain clouded by denial, and your growth will be stunted. The act of honesty is an antidote to confusion. When you allow yourself to be truthful with yourself, you eliminate the noise, the distractions, the justifications, and the excuses that cloud your thinking. Your mind clears. and you can begin to think more effectively. It's only when you face the truth that you can begin to organize your thoughts, make better decisions, and take meaningful action. Disciplining your thinking is a continuous process of self-examination, self-awareness, and self-correction. It's a willingness to let go of comforting lies and face the sometimes uncomfortable but ultimately liberating truth. To truly discipline your thinking, the act of writing becomes indispensable. Writing isn't merely a tool for recording thoughts. It's a mechanism that forces clarity and precision. When we hold a thought in our head, it often floats around, disorganized and vague. It can be influenced by emotions, fleeting feelings, and external distractions. But when you take the time to write, something incredible happens. The thought becomes solid. It transforms from an abstract idea into something concrete. And this process, this externalization of your thinking, is where true discipline begins. Writing allows you to break down the complexity of your mind. The vast web of thoughts that occupy your head often intertwine and spiral, leaving you with confusion or a lack of direction. But when you write, you force yourself to separate those thoughts, to organize them. You see them for what they are, instead of being overwhelmed by their complexity. It's easy to feel lost in your mind, to think that you're stuck or confused. But when you put your thoughts on paper, you realize that many of the problems you face are simply a lack of structure. Writing creates that structure. It offers you the opportunity to look at your thoughts with a clear analytical eye. You are no longer passive in your thinking. You become an active participant in shaping it. This process also highlights the power of articulating your problems. Often, people carry internal struggles that remain nebulous because they haven't been clearly defined. You might feel anxious, stuck, or frustrated, but when you try to articulate why you feel that way, the reasons may not be obvious. Writing forces you to find the root of the issue. It requires you to ask yourself hard questions. What is the source of my frustration? What specifically is bothering me? What am I afraid of? It's only when you put pen to paper that you begin to untangle the mess of emotions and thoughts in your mind. By articulating your problems clearly, you can begin to address them with the seriousness they deserve. Furthermore, writing is a method of refining your thinking. It's one thing to have a vague thought or idea, but it's an entirely different thing to be able to express it clearly and precisely. You may start with a rough or incoherent idea, but through the act of writing, you hone it. You learn what works and what doesn't, what's useful and what's superfluous. This is where discipline truly shines. To be able to express your thoughts with clarity takes practice and rigor. You don't achieve this without consistency, but over time, as you continue to write, you start to see patterns in your thinking. What kind of thinking serves you and what kind doesn't? You begin to recognize weaknesses and areas for growth. Finally, writing creates a permanent record of your thoughts. Unlike fleeting, transient thoughts that come and go, written words remain. They serve as a point of reference, something you can return to and revisit. This record is essential for growth because it gives you the opportunity to reflect on past mistakes, successes, and ideas. It helps you see patterns and trends in your thinking over time, giving you deeper insights into your behavior and decision-making. This permanent record becomes a personal archive of your intellectual journey, something that will continue to guide and inform your thinking long after you've written it down. Writing, in essence, is an active tool for disciplining your thinking. It transforms disorganized, chaotic thoughts into structured, clear, and actionable insights. It's not merely a process of putting words on paper. It's a process of refining, clarifying, and improving your mind. Through writing, you make the invisible visible and the abstract concrete, creating a foundation for disciplined, effective thinking. If you truly want to discipline your thinking, you need to recognize the vital role that aiming at something, having a goal or a purpose plays in that process. Without a direction to guide you, your thoughts will flounder, drifting aimlessly in a sea of distraction, confusion, and frustration. It's easy to let your mind become a space for endless analysis, problem solving, and worry without any clear end point. Without purpose, your thinking will degrade into a constant cycle of trivial concerns and unproductive rumination. However, when your thoughts are directed toward a goal or an ideal, they become sharper, more focused, and more effective. Aiming at something means that you have a clear idea of what you are striving for. It's not enough to simply have vague aspirations or desires. You need to define your goal clearly and with precision. Vague goals lead to vague thinking, which leads to stagnation. Clear goals, on the other hand, cut through the fog of uncertainty and provide you with a path forward. When you have a target, every decision, every thought, every action can be evaluated based on how well it aligns with that goal. This evaluation process becomes the foundation of disciplined thinking. It's not just about thinking randomly or passively. It's about making decisions with intention and aligning your mental energy with your purpose. Without aim, your mind is like a ship without a rudder. It may be moving, but it's not moving toward anything specific. This is what happens to many people. They go through their daily lives reacting to whatever comes their way, never really considering what they truly want, what their values are, what they could be working toward. As a result, their thoughts become muddled, their energy dissipates, and they end up feeling stuck or lost. They get caught in the current of life without ever taking control of the direction they're heading. On the other hand, when you have a goal in sight, your thinking becomes more organized, intentional, and productive. It provides a framework for making decisions and evaluating the various opportunities or challenges that arise. This clarity of direction allows you to prioritize your mental energy and resources toward what matters most. You stop wasting time on distractions and instead focus on what brings you closer to your desired outcome. It's a simple but powerful shift in perspective. When you have a goal, you no longer see obstacles as insurmountable problems. Instead, they become challenges to be overcome on your way to achieving your aim. Each hurdle you encounter becomes part of the process, a necessary step toward growth and success. A goal doesn't just provide external motivation, it also acts as an internal compass. It's not only about achieving something in the material world, but also about cultivating a sense of meaning and purpose within yourself. This is crucial because it's easy to get caught up in the external rewards and accolades that come with achieving a goal, but those are often fleeting. What's far more important is the internal transformation that occurs when you aim for something meaningful. The act of striving, of constantly moving toward a worthy objective, brings a sense of fulfillment that transcends any external recognition. This internal satisfaction is what gives life its depth and richness. The process of aiming also helps to mitigate the feelings of anxiety and doubt that often plague people. When you lack direction, it's easy to become overwhelmed by uncertainty. You don't know what to focus on, what decisions to make, or how to spend your time. But when you have a goal, even in the face of uncertainty, you know that there's a purpose behind your actions. You can proceed with confidence, knowing that your steps, however small, are moving you in the right direction. This clarity reduces mental clutter and helps you to think with more confidence and precision. Another crucial aspect of having a goal is that it allows you to engage in meaningful self-reflection. You can regularly evaluate how well you're progressing toward your aim, and in doing so, you can refine your thinking. It's not about being perfect from the start. The process of pursuing a goal is filled with trial and error, adjustments, and recalibrations. But each of these moments contributes to the development of your thinking. You begin to think more strategically, more critically, and more constructively. You learn from your mistakes and you start to anticipate challenges before they arise. In this way, a goal becomes not just a destination, but a continual process of mental growth. Additionally, aiming at something provides you with a sense of resilience. When life gets difficult, when challenges appear that seem insurmountable, the very act of having a goal can help you persevere. It's easy to succumb to the weight of life's difficulties when you have no greater purpose to guide you. But when you have something to aim at, something that resonates deeply with your values and desires, you find the strength to keep moving forward, even when things get tough. This resilience, born from the clarity of purpose, fuels your ability to think constructively, even in the face of adversity.